Okay, let's talk Bilmuri.
Literally, I was like, whoa, that is crazy.
Volume slowly goes up.
I was so wrong. It sounded awful.
Yeah, didn't know what that was. Still don't.
You'll get there.
Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Not in the Background podcast, your weekly dose of music talk and music recommendations. Today we're going to be talking all about the band, well technically the project or the man, the artist, but not the actor, Bilmuri. This is a project that was started in 2016 by ex-lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist from Attack, Johnny Frank. It's quite funny talking about this so soon after episode 1, because back in episode 1 when I spoke about Precedent, Attack came up and I actually mentioned the fact that I hadn't listened to them in probably 15 years or so. Then I came across Bilmuri's latest single and looked up the band and saw who it was and was like, oh, that's a strange coincidence. So yeah, cool to be talking about them today. So obviously the most interesting thing to kick off with is the name of the project, which is Bilmuri. And I keep saying Bilmuri and keep putting it into one word, but the name is a play off of the actor's name, Bilmuri. It's kind of like the way I think of it and the way I keep going in my brain is like, you know, in Harry Potter, where he goes and uses the flute powder, and instead of saying Diagon Alley, he says Diagon Alley. So instead of saying Bill Murray, I keep saying Bilmuri. And that's just how my brain works, I guess. So yeah, today's episode is going to be split into 2 parts. First part, we're going to talk all about one of the 15 studio albums of Bilmuri. And then in the second part, we're going to talk about the singles off the new album that's coming out on April. Let me just check my notes. April 10th. So let's kick off with part 1. In part 1, we're going to be talking about the album Eggy Pocket, which is a Bilmuri album from 2020. I discovered this because, interestingly enough, I thought in the spirit of Easter, I would do an Easter special. And I thought, okay, let me look at some songs and bands and artists that are to do with Easter and all that. And there's a lot of religious songs to do with Easter. So I thought, okay, let me take a word instead, a word associated with Easter, and find something off the back of that. And the first thing I thought of was obviously egg. So it was Easter egg and then it was egg. And I looked up songs called Egg and albums called Egg and so on. And that's when I found the album from Bilmuri, Eggy Pocket. Listened to it and loved it. And I wanted to go through the songs from that album and talk a bit more about the band, the project. I think I'm going to call it a project for ease. Talk about the project and talk more about, you know, the general sound and then the nuance of Bilmuri and the reason why I'm really enjoying this band and looking forward to the new album. So album's obviously called Eggy Pocket. It kicks off with a song, and this is the first song on the album called, and I'm not going to say because there's a blurted out swear in there. So I'm going to say that the first song off the album is called Absolutely Cranking My Hog, which sets the tone really for everything that Bilmuri does, because there's a lot of comedic elements, a lot of humorous elements to the music videos and the song names. And then underneath that, there's some really quite heavy songs and some dark songs in places. So for example, this first song on the album, it kicks off with the first and second song that are a lot more darker in tone than the rest of the album. Interesting considering the song is called Absolutely Cranking My Hog, but contrast is beauty and variety is the spice of life. So yeah, the first song kicks off is a very alternative rock song, what you expect from Bilmuri. And it's a great song from start to finish. The part I really like about it, and this I've discovered in a lot of Bilmuri's other songs as well, is there's this kind of country sounding-esque guitar towards the end of the song that finishes it off. The structure of Bilmuri's songs is often, there's the main part of the song, and then towards the end of the song, or about 2/3 through, you get a surprise of some sort. And in this case, the surprise is the country-esque guitar, which hasn't really been introduced throughout the rest of the song. So yeah, really awesome song to kick off the album. And then we move to the second song, which is called I Seriously Dislike Most Other Humans. I certainly relate to this. I love humans. I love other people, but there really are some people out there that suck. So I get this completely from the song title. Again, really cool alternative rock song. The thing about it that I really know that I noticed that I thought was quite cool is there's a sound in the background about halfway through. It's this kind of slightly, how do I describe it? Like, it almost sounds like an instrument of a washing machine going round. It's a really specific sound. Listen to it and you'll know what I mean. But there's this sound effect that goes round, and it really reminded me of a song, and I couldn't quite think of what the song was. It took me a while. At first I thought, is it Rob Zombie? What is it? And then after a while of thinking about it, I realized it was the song Year Zero by Ghost. There's a part after the intro, during the verses, where basically after the lyrics, there's a sound effect in the background that's really similar to the sound effect that's in this second song. So that was quite a cool comparison, and I quite enjoyed noticing that. One of the things I like about Bilmuri is that the sound is quite unique in itself, but you can always pinpoint where certain influences have come from. And I really enjoy that when you can see a band, hear a band, and see kind of the little parts that make them up whilst they've found their own unique sound. So that's really cool. The song also ends with a flute, a kind of more upbeat flute to kind of finish things off. So that's an interesting end to an alternative rock song. That kicks us on to song 3, which is Midwest Lawn Care Dads Who Smash Brews. So another fantastic song name. Also to point out that in the actual song titles don't have any spaces in them. It's just capitalized all of this. So it takes a minute to figure out what the song's actually called. Again, a slightly different type of song, actually. One of the things that Bilmuri do, which is quite interesting, is the project blends a lot of quite pop sounding music within a lot of alternative rock and hard rock sounds. And sometimes that's from song to song, sometimes that within the same song. This happens not in this song. This song overall is much softer than the first two. And it kicks off with this kind of like contemporary pop vocal sample, and then carries on with the pop vibe before it finishes off with this 1975 sounding guitar at the end of it. So it's a complete contrast of the first couple of songs. It still feels like it's part of the whole album, but there's definitely a contrast to the feeling and the vibe of the first two songs. And this actually carries on through the next few songs of the album. There's 7 songs on the album in total. The first 2 are a lot darker, and then you go into a kind of pop and then hard rock combination as the album goes on. That's song 3. Song 4 is called Post Almond Clarity. I will let you use your imagination to figure out what the real reference is there and what that is talking about. However, the song stays as quite poppy, and it's kind of like when I was listening to it, first of all, I thought it's like if Charlie Puth did a rock song. And I got a lot of love for some Charlie Puth songs, so that's not a bad thing at all. The thing that I like about it as well is it brings in one of the really cool parts about Bilmuri, which is the saxophone. There's a lot of saxophone throughout the songs in the project, and you get some saxophone in the middle of this that really adds a lot of substance to the music. It kind of gives me a bit of this song in particular, there's a Sleep Token Summoning / Gethsemane vibe. If you've heard Gethsemane off the new album, or if you've heard Summoning off of Take Me Back to Eden, there's that kind of vibe with the drums and a slightly more jazz orientated element to it, which is really cool. And like I said, the saxophone is a through note with a lot of Bilmuri's work, and something that, I'm really happy that saxophone has kind of made a comeback. I don't know if you've been to a gig or any kind of party where a song comes on and suddenly there's some saxophone in it and everyone just loses their minds, which is quite interesting and quite cool to have something different and have quite an old instrument be such an iconic thing in this day and age. So yeah, I love the saxophone in this, love the song in this, and then there's quite a cool guitar to end the song. Moving into the tail end of the album, you move on to the next song, which is song 5, called Fluoride in the Hard Seltzer Water. That's the name of this one. And the thing I liked about this song was obviously the song has the element of water in it, whether this is intentional or not, but the opening sample that adds along to the drums is this almost like water droplet sound effect, which is quite interesting. So it brings you in with a really, really different feeling to it. And then you get into this proper A Day to Remember style alternative punky sounding song. So once again, you get a lot of contrast between these softer samples and these hard rock elements. Another really fun part of this song is that you hear the Macho Man Randy Savage, who was an old wrestler. You have some of his vocals in there, not singing, but doing some of his promos. And there's a really fun element towards the end of it, which tells you a lot about Bilmuri as a project, where basically the Macho Man saying all these things, and he goes, "Oh, nothing can stop the Macho Man," and then that drops out, and then this robotic voice says, "Bilmuri." And that kind of tells you all of it, all the elements of like the samples and the, culture and all that coming into the same thing. I think that Bilmuri is a really cool project of a guy who's having fun with it and making these really cool, interesting songs and just being very creative. So it's cool seeing that in there. Plus, big Red Sin fan. So that was a bonus. I can't do a Macho Man Randy Savage impression. That's something that I definitely need to work on. I can do a good Kermit the Frog impression, and there's a few others, but maybe I'll sort of drip them into future episodes and we'll go from there. But yeah, so you have that element, you have that part with the Randy Savage sample and the vocals, and then it moves into a sort of quite My Chemical Romance sounding esque part to finish the song. So a lot more emo to kind of fill out the end of that, which is maybe a bit more reminiscent of early Attack days, that early 2000s kind of emo punk craze, which is quite cool. Moving on to the penultimate song of the album, and this song is called Lift Heavy Stone, Make Sad Head Voice Quiet. It's like a poem. There's like poetry in these names. And this one again starts being quite poppy. You have the poppy element throughout the first, 75% of the song before it then moves into this really much heavier breakdown, which it's you just jump around all over the place in a Bilmuri album. That's one of the cool things about it. And you really don't expect it. When you're listening to this, you feel like this sounds like not bog standard, but this sounds like quite a normal pop song. And then out of nowhere, you get this heavy riff, and then the drums slow down and everything gets all fun and dark and all that, which is really cool. And obviously, to finish it off, because it wouldn't be a Bilmuri song without another surprise, you have this really ethereal sounding kind of instrumental to finish the song after that. And that tells you all you need to know about that song. And once again, using that structure and mixing things up and the contrast between samples and, the slightly more upbeat elements versus the slightly darker elements and the heavier elements and the screaming vocals and the very clean vocals. We now move on to the last song on the album, which is just called Egg. So this is song 7. This is the song that finishes off the album. And it's great. There's those poppy elements, but there's what I could only really find as the only main guitar solo in this song on the album. I think some albums can overdo it on the guitar solos, and they're very understated on this. There's little guitar licks and little guitar riffs, but there's no main guitar solo, and it's all saved for this last song, which is great because it puts a real finite, we did it kind of feel to the album, which is, a really cool way to finish the album. I like listening to albums because I like feeling out how the band or artist has decided to put it together. I'm sure when Bilmuri, Johnny Frank, was putting this together, he would have thought of the way he wanted to structure the album so that you went on this journey. And you do, because like I said, you start in a darker place with the first 2 songs, and things get a lot poppier, and they finish in this quite upbeat, uplifting way to finish off the album with the guitar solo, as I mentioned. So yeah, it's a really cool album. I really think it's worth checking out. I feel like Bilmuri are one of these projects, one of these bands that very quickly whether you like it or whether you don't like it. I'm sure that some people would see the name of a song absolutely cranking my hog and probably wouldn't be their thing, but I saw that and found it funny, and then listened to the band and was like, okay, this is actually really, really good. So yeah, it might not be your aesthetic, or you might absolutely love it and love the humor. I will talk a bit more about the humor, and we'll talk a bit more about Bilmuri as a whole in the second part. Quick note from me before we jump into part 2 of this episode. If you're enjoying this and you want to see more, please give me a like on this episode and subscribe to the channel. I'll be posting new episodes every week. There's always discussion. There's as always, talk about music and new artists and new bands, and would love for you to be a part of that so we can help this channel grow and talk all about music. Thank you. So we spoke all about Eggy Pocket in part 1. Now let's talk about the singles and the new album, which is coming out on April 10th, which is called Kinda Hard. I'm really looking forward to this because one of the songs off this album was actually how I discovered Bilmuri in the first place, which was the song Twice. How I describe Twice is it's kind of like Carly Rae Jepsen meets Sleep Token with some saxophone in there. The song sounds like it could genuinely be a Carly Rae Jepsen song. And again, not a knock at all. I Really, Really, Really Like You is a fantastic song, even if I can't say the reallys properly. And it's really, again, a sort of iconic Bilmuri song of it has all of the elements that you're looking for. It has the pop element, it has the rock element, and it has the really cool saxophone element. So interesting thing about this song, the saxophone is done by a woman, a saxophone player called Gabby Rose. She actually did the saxophone that finishes off the song Emergence by Sleep Token. And she does some incredible work. She's touring with Bilmuri at the moment, as far as I understand, and has worked on a few of the songs. She's actually in one of the music videos for the singles as well. But it's really cool to hear her sax playing in so many songs, and she's got her fingers in so many pies across the world of rock, and the Bilmuri sax really adds so much to the project and really adds so much to this song. So definitely check out the song Twice. This is what got me into it, and check out Gabby Rose's other work as well, because you will not be disappointed. So yeah, Twice was the song that got me into Bilmuri, and the music video is very much along the same lines. It's literally just one shot of Johnny Franks crouched by a tree with a sword. And it just comes up with this Dark Souls style, like, information at the bottom of the screen, which obviously at one point comes up with press this button to crank your hog. So that's very much a through note with all of the Bilmuri stuff. So you have the humorous element, but it's kind of funny. It's like when you think about Tenacious D make a lot of comedic sounding songs, but they're also fantastic songs. Bilmuri's a bit like that. You have the comedic element, but the songs themselves are actually fantastic. So the comedic element just helps with the whole persona and really enjoying the band. The two other singles I want to talk about. So I'll talk about Hard to Tell first, because this has a lot of poppy elements to it as well. But one of the things it dives into, which I hadn't heard with the other Bilmuri stuff yet, was this real almost metal sounding into it. The drums and the metal sounding guitar to end the song are really, really cool and different to the other Bilmuri-esque work. The other work that I've spoken about has more of a, like I said, a Day to Remember type feel in that hard rock element and that kind of pop punk element that it dives between. It's not quite pop punk, even though it feels like a combination of pop and punk in places, but it has that sort of sound to it. Whereas this song dives a bit more into the sort of metal sounding parts. And once again, it's really cool because the only parts of Bilmuri I've listened to so far has been Eggy Pocket and the singles off of the new album. I'm looking forward to diving more into it, because one thing I love about it, or multiple things I love about it, is the use of different instruments and different genres and the variety of tones across, whether that's, saxophone, drums, guitar, any of that. So you always feel like you're getting surprised by it and surprised by whatever is coming out. The songs on Eggy Pocket sound very different to the songs that are off the new album. They both sound like Bilmuri albums, but they sound so unique alongside each other. So it's cool to see an artist being able to venture into different directions whilst also retaining their sound. And I always really rate that, because like I said before, you can't reinvent the wheel. There's only so much you can do. What really sells your music and what really gets people into your music is authenticity and creativity. And I think when an artist has authenticity and creativity, it doesn't really matter if you can hear the elements of who the inspiration is or what songs are the inspiration, so on, because you're still hearing something new. And I love that about Bilmuri. So yeah, Hard to Tell, another great single off the album. Last song I'm going to talk about, because it really incorporates the humorous element as well as what I've said, which is the other band influences in there, is the song Always Let You Down, which actually features Jeremy McKinnon from A Day to Remember, the lead singer from A Day to Remember. Now, the music video literally starts off with a guy introducing this sort of backyard fighting situation. And there's this kind of like medieval fight club that Johnny Frank and then Jeremy McKinnon are a part of. So I won't spoil it. Just check it out because it's a lot of fun. And once again, will really sell you on the Bill Murray inauguration tour, which is great. So yeah, definitely check that out. And I think also checking out the song is really cool. It's fun because when I first heard the song, I was thinking through the first verse and then got to the chorus and all that, and the guitar that leads into the first verse. And I was like, this really sounds like Nickelback's song Saving Me. And I thought, I'm a genius. I've stumbled upon this thing that no one else is going to know about. And then, of course, I looked up the song on YouTube, looked at the comments, and there was a bunch of people who said it. And there's literally a reference in the chorus where he says something about saving. So I don't think it's too far-fetched to feel like it was an inspiration to that. But what I like is it's only an inspiration. It's not the entire song. It's not a carbon copy. It's very different. And there's all of those same Bill Murray elements that I mentioned before. You've got the rock elements, you've got the heavy elements, and then there's even a section that sounds a bit like, I think the song's Damn It by Blink-182. Remind me of what it is. I can't remember what it is. I love Blink-182 as well, but there's an element of that as well. So there's these incorporations of the influences whilst also retaining the Bill Murray sound and the Bill Murray creativity. And I think that's a really nice note to finish on, because that is, as I've mentioned earlier, the great part of it. If someone said to me, like, why should I listen to Bill Murray? What is it about this project that means I should be involved? And I'd say the creativity, the fact that you can listen to something unique whilst also respecting and hearing all of the influences in there, and the fact that it's just a lot of fun. It's really cool when music is fun. There's so much music out there that's dark and really serious and really heavy thematically, and sometimes, you know, you have to be in a certain mindset to listen to it. I think Bill Murray's going to become one of these bands for me that I can listen to whatever mood I'm in. If I'm in a good mood, it helps the good mood. If I'm in a bad mood, it helps put me back into a good mood. And that's really quite a wholesome thing to feel. And I'd love to share that with other people, that this is a band that you can really listen to in whatever mood you're in, whatever state you're in. If you're driving home from work and you need to relax, if you're going to the gym and you need something to, you know, pump your iron with, I think that's what the cool kids say, then again, a perfect thing. So Bill Murray's really a band for all occasions, a project for all occasions. And I think you should definitely check it out. As usual, I'll give you a couple of song recommendations to dive into to finish off the episode. I definitely think you should start with Twice, because that was the song that got me into Bill Murray, and I think is a really good step to start the journey and get an idea of what Bill Murray's about. And then I would jump into I Seriously Dislike Most Other Humans, because again, you hear some more uniqueness and more creativity, and you get the vibe of what Bill Murray are trying to do with the different samples and the different instruments and all of the elements that helps create their sound. So yeah, check it out. And then on this episode, drop a comment. Tell me what you think of Bill Murray. Tell me what you think of the episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts and how you discovered them, or if you've discovered them off this episode and you want to, you know, listen to more of them and jump into more Bill Murray. Would love to hear all about that. Give me a like if you enjoyed the episode, and a subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. I post new episodes every week, so would love for you to be a part of that and help me grow this channel and hopefully put some really cool content out there for you guys to see. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week.